Hello and welcome back to our channel, where we bring classic stories to life. Today, we're diving into a wonderful tale of kindness, magic, and a little bit of silliness. The Golden Goose. Once upon a time, in a small village, lived a man with 3 sons. The 2 older sons were considered clever and capable, but the youngest, whom everyone called Simpleton, was thought to be, well, a bit foolish. Naturally, the parents favored their older, smarter sons. One day, the father needed wood from the forest. He sent his eldest son first. The mother, wanting the best for her favorite, packed him a delicious, freshly baked cake and a bottle of fine wine. As the eldest son ventured into the woods, he came across a small, gray-haired old man. "Good day," said the old man. "I'm terribly hungry and thirsty. Would you be so kind as to share a piece of your cake and a sip of your wine?" But the eldest son scoffed. "If I give you my food, I won't have enough for myself." "Go away," he said rudely. The old man just looked at him sadly. The son went on his way, lifted his axe to chop a tree, but on the very first swing, the axe slipped and cut his arms. He had to run home, wailing in pain. The next day, it was the second son's turn. His mother packed him the same fine meal, and just like his brother, he met the same little grey old man in the forest. "Please," the old man begged again, "share a little of your food and drink with me." The second son was just as selfish. "What I have, I keep. Find your own food," he snapped. He continued on, but soon his axe slipped as well, and he struck his leg, forcing him to limp home in agony. Finally, it was Simpleton's turn. He pleaded with his parents to let him try. Reluctantly, his mother gave him a stale, hard cake made with water and a bottle of sour beer. She didn't expect much from him. In the forest, Simpleton met the very same little grey man. "Good day, young man," he said. "Could you spare a bite to eat and a drop to drink? I am so very hungry." Without a moment's hesitation, Simpleton smiled warmly. "Of course, sir. I don't have much, just this hard cake and sour beer, but you are more than welcome to share what I have." They sat down together, and a wonderful thing happened. As they ate, the stale cake turned into a delicious, sweet pastry, and the sour beer became the finest wine. After they finished their meal, the old man said, "Because you have a kind heart and were willing to share, I will reward you. See that old tree over there? Cut it down and you will find something special inside." Simpleton thanked the man, went to the tree and chopped it down. Just as the old man had promised, nestled inside the hollow trunk was a magnificent goose with feathers made of pure, shining gold. Overjoyed, Simpleton picked up the golden goose and decided to head to an inn for the night. The innkeeper had 3 daughters, and when they saw the incredible goose, their eyes widened with greed. "Just one of those golden feathers would make us rich," they whispered to each other. That night, while Simpleton was fast asleep, the eldest daughter tiptoed into his room. She reached out to pluck just one tiny feather from the goose's wing. But the moment her fingers touched it, her hand became stuck. She couldn't pull it away, no matter how hard she tried. A little while later, the second sister crept in, thinking she could succeed where her sister had failed. She touched her sister, trying to pull her free, but instantly she too was stuck fast to her sister. Finally, the youngest sister came in, saw her two sisters in their predicament, and laughed. "How silly you both are," she said, and she reached out to help, but you guessed it, she also got stuck. The three of them were now trapped in a comical chain. The next morning, Simpleton woke up, completely unaware of the chaos that had unfolded during the night. He simply tucked the golden goose under his arm and set off. The three girls had no choice but to follow, attached to the goose and each other, stumbling and tripping along behind him. As they made their way through the streets, they became quite a spectacle. A parson saw the ridiculous procession and scolded the girls for chasing a young man so shamelessly. He tried to pull the youngest girl away, but as soon as he touched her, he was stuck too. Then the parson's clerk came along, saw his master in trouble, and tried to help, only to get stuck himself. Before long, a long line of people was trailing behind Simpleton and his goose, each one stuck to the person in front of them. It was a hilarious, tumbling, tangled parade. Their journey eventually led them to a kingdom ruled by a king whose daughter had a peculiar problem. She had never laughed in her entire life. The king was so desperate to see his daughter happy that he had issued a royal proclamation. Any man who could make the princess laugh would win her hand in marriage. Many had tried and failed. Princes, jesters, and comedians had all performed their best acts, but the princess remained stone-faced. Then Simpleton arrived at the castle, with his golden goose under his arm and the long, chaotic line of people trailing behind him, the three innkeepers' daughters, the parson, the clerk, and two laborers, all struggling to keep up. When the princess looked out her window and saw this absurd sight, this strange young man walking calmly while a whole crowd of people were stuck together, hopping and tripping behind him, she couldn't contain herself. A small giggle escaped her lips, then another, and soon she burst into a full, hearty laugh, the first one of her life. Simpleton had succeeded. He went before the king to claim his prize. But the king, seeing that Simpleton was just a simple-looking young man in dusty clothes, was not pleased at the idea of him marrying his daughter. So he decided to set some impossible tasks to get rid of him. First, the king declared, "You must find me a man who can drink all the wine in my royal cellar." Simpleton felt his heart sink. But he remembered the kind old man from the forest. He went back to the woods, and sure enough, he found him. The old man pointed him to a very thirsty man sitting by a spring. Simpleton brought this man to the castle, and to the king's astonishment, the man drank every last drop of wine from the cellar's giant barrels until it was completely empty. The king, still unwilling to give up his daughter, set a second task. "Now, you must find a man who can eat a mountain of bread." Simpleton returned to the forest, and the little grey man showed him a man who was constantly complaining of hunger. Simpleton led this man to the castle, where a mountain of bread had been baked. The man sat down and ate the entire mountain without even pausing for breath. Now, the king was truly desperate. For his final task, he demanded, "Bring me a ship that can sail on both land and sea." This seemed truly impossible. But Simpleton, trusting in his friend, went back to the forest one last time. The little grey old man smiled. "Because you are kind to me, I will give you this," he said, and presented Simpleton with a magnificent ship that could indeed sail on dry land as if it were water. Simpleton sailed the ship right into the castle courtyard. The king, seeing that every impossible task had been completed, finally had to admit defeat. He had no choice but to honor his promise. So Simpleton, the boy everyone thought was foolish, married the beautiful princess. They had a grand wedding, and everyone celebrated the man who had brought laughter back to the kingdom. When the old king passed away, Simpleton became the new king. He ruled with the same kindness and generosity he had shown to the little grey man in the forest, and he and the queen lived happily ever after, never forgetting the magical goose that started it all. And the moral of the story: a kind and generous heart is worth more than all the cleverness in the world. Sometimes the simplest acts of goodness lead to the greatest rewards. Thank you so much for watching with us today. If you enjoyed this classic fairy tale, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and ring the bell so you never miss a new story. We'll see you next time.